Hello and welcome to a special golf edition of the SBK betting podcast, where we look ahead to the big golf tournament at Augusta National this week. It's the 80 Masters. Lots of excitement building, two very special guests to discuss, the big storylines, some of the key odds as we look ahead to the big tournament this week. So on the line with me, I've got Sophie Walker, a former Ladies European Tour player, and Paul Higham, who's one of our golf writers at SBK. Like I said, huge tournament this week. We'll just go to both of you first, just to say, how much you like this tournament and why it's so special. I'll start with you, Sophie.
It's the first tournament I ever remember watching, when Nick Faldo won back in the 90s with my dad. I'm fortunate enough to go to Augusta with my father a couple of years ago to watch Tiger Woods win a green jacket in 2019. And for me, it's the start of the golfing season in Britain. That's the way I've always thought of it, for us people that just like to go for a knock out the weekend. But the fact it's the same course year in, year out just generates so much history. And there's always a bit of a gap, isn't there, between last year's major and the first one, which is Augusta National. And I don't think there's a better course on the planet. It's the bucket list golf course, and it gets tour professionals giddy, which is always fun to see.
Absolutely. I think that's a good point, that the majors, they come quite quickly in the sort of during the summer months, don't they? And then you've got that big gap where, some years you have the Ryder Cup and, the Solheim Cup to sort of fill that void. But the Masters always feels like it's been a long time coming. And yeah, like you say, the tradition, the history of Augusta always helps build that up as well. And it's always some week. Paul, are you excited?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree with Sophie. I think it's a couple of things, isn't it? We've been starved of golf, really. If there's no Ryder Cup, you've got Christmas, the weather's awful, and all of a sudden we start building towards the big one. And the majors come thick and fast after this, don't they? But all that build up is just towards Augusta, towards the Masters. And the fact is, it's not the oldest major, but it's at the same track every year. We know all the holes, we know all the traditions. We've got the caddies and the boiler suits, we've got the par three, we've got the champions dinner. All these little foibles, nuances. We know them all, don't we? And I think that familiarity, it makes the Masters the one. I think obviously the Open in this country, but the one global golf event that sort of transcends golf. Even if you're not a golf fan, you'll know about the Masters, you'll know about Augusta, you'll know about the Azaleas, you'll know about Magnolia Lane. So I think all of those things together just make it, make the anticipation build for a lot longer than you get with the other majors. And I think that's why it just elevates it just a little bit.
No, absolutely. Yeah, I think, to be honest, I was actually supposed to be doing this podcast in a green jacket. But we didn't sort that out in time. Obviously, that's another tradition that obviously is instantly recognisable in the sport. And yeah, I mean, this year's tournament really does look a very exciting one to look forward to. And before we sort of get into the odds, the betting market, I'll just come to you both on, I guess, the challenge itself of Augusta, the course, and what you both look for when you're trying to find the winner of this tournament. Sophie, over to you.
Well, like we said before, we're very fortunate that the tournament's been held at the same place. So we've got course stats. I like to look quite deep into strokes gained, which you can find on pgatour.com. And that is, for me, the most important one is off the tee and into the green approach. You need to be gaining on the field in those areas. Putting obviously is important, but it's about getting on the streaks, I would say, more with putting. Augusta, they talk about hitting it into the right part of the green, not just the greens. So somebody that sits quite highly in that ranking, stroke average as well, top 10 stroke average for the season, that shows some form. I don't think you want to be coming into the Masters without form. It's a very nerve-wracking event, even for the best players in the world. It means a lot to them. You don't want to be finding your game there. A recent win is always nice. Also, experience is key, I think, round Augusta because of the history behind it. Everybody's got a few rounds under their belts, it seems. If you look at the past winners, last two, DJ, Dustin Johnson, and Hideki Matsuyama, they had between kind of 9 and 12 years of experience of playing that golf course. And then just experience in majors. I do feel like this is the most anticipated major. And as a world player, it's the one that you want to win. So 9 out of the past 10 champions have had a major win or a second place in a major before winning the green jacket. But what I would say is there's so many stats out there to prove your point for Masters winners. And I'm sure you'll agree, Paul, you can almost knock out half the field here, can't you?
Yeah, and I think it's meant to be the easiest one to find a winner. You know, the shorter field, lots of amateurs in there, lots of past champions. And I think you've just profiled the usual winner perfectly there. It's a second shot golf course, isn't it? You've got to be able to hit your spots on the greens, because if you're missing the wrong place, you simply can't get up and down. So like you, I'm looking for someone who's got, great iron play, strokes gain approach, but also scrambling as well. I think it's really important around here as well. For that occasion, you do miss the green, and you are going to miss greens here because sometimes you cannot take the flags on. You've got to know where to miss, and it's just imperative that you get up and down. So I like to look for someone who's good at scrambling as well. And if you look at the stats, you can have like Sophie says, you can have a good week on the putting greens, but you don't necessarily have to be a great putter or in the best of putting form as well. And I think I was having a look at this recently, and I think Jordan Spieth was the only man who won when he was in the top sort of 40 or 50 for that year in strokes gained putting. So, you can come in with a really cold putter and just get hot for that week or Augusta. So putting, driving accuracy, it's reasonably open at Augusta. We've seen Mickelson and Tiger and people, hit it almost anywhere. It's a second shot golf course. You've got to play well with your irons, and you've got to scramble well. Otherwise, you haven't got a chance this week.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, like you say, there's loads of different trends that people look at going into this tournament, and it's always very interesting to read those pieces. And what we'll do soon is we'll go through the top 12 in the market, because there seems to be a clear sort of top 12 before a little gap in the betting. But before we just get into those odds, there's one person we have to start with who's not in that top 12 in the market. He's sitting at around sort of the 80-1 mark. And that's Tiger Woods, who has just said in his press conference this afternoon that he will be playing in this tournament. The media, like, there's been a frenzy following him around the golf course and all that. Obviously, multiple champion here recently, obviously ending that major drought in 2019. So, Paul, what do you make of Tiger's chances this week? Obviously the following he has and all that. He's obviously an incredible player, maybe the best ever. But can he do it this week?
Well, I think first and foremost, it's absolutely amazing for the tournament that he's here. Can he win? I mean, I'm one of the biggest Tiger fans around, but even I can't see him winning around here. I can hardly see him, getting through 4 rounds. Tiger teeing it up in this Masters so soon after that horrific car crash, is absolutely exceptional. It's amazing that he's teeing it up. If he makes the cut, it'll be a borderline miracle in my eyes, because it's such a big tournament. He's not played. All these guys coming are in decent form. If there is one place he can do it, it is here. This is like Tiger's backyard, and he can play this place in his sleep. I just think, the physical exertion on that leg of walking around one of the toughest walks you're going to get on a golf course for 4 days. I don't think I'll be backing him to win, to be honest. I might back him to win the cut, to make the cut. But I think just the fact he's here is a massive victory for Tiger. If he can play half decent and maybe make the cut, I think that is an absolutely amazing achievement. But winning it, I mean, we've written off Tiger Woods, so I'm not going to write him off, but I can't possibly back him to win this one, no. But like I say, just amazing to have him back.
No, absolutely, yeah. And I think obviously his odds when he last won would have been quite a bit shorter than 80-1. But I think SBK, we have him about 4-1 to finish in the top 20. Sophie, I don't know whether you think that's a good bet or not.
It's physically, that is his issue. By all accounts, he sounds like he's hitting the ball really well. My only worry is that he could tee it up and he might not finish. And then equally, you don't get your money back there. If he pulls out before, you're okay. Like you said, Paul, it's going to be quite a physical walk for him. Can't imagine he's walked too many 72 holes in a row. If his leg holds up, I think he easily makes the cut. I think it's all about his physical being rather than his actual golf game. So yeah, that's it really. I just don't think you can trust his body at the moment. And I think if it was another tournament, we wouldn't have seen him.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think, it was interesting to see Rory McIlroy's comments today where he said, I think for a lot of the guys we're about to talk about, those at the top of the market, Tiger obviously takes a lot of the media attention away and maybe just a bit of the pressure off these guys. So maybe they see this as an even better chance for them to go and win. But yeah, what we'll do now is we'll go through those top 12 in the betting, the sort of the main contenders, if you like. And I'll just run through those and the SBK prices very quickly. So it's John Rahm, the favourite at 12-1. But an interesting point with John Rahm there is he has drifted from about 9-1 earlier this year due to maybe slightly off recent form. And then you've got Justin Thomas, 14-1, Scotty Scheffler, 18-1, the new world number one. Cameron Smith, 19-1, Dustin Johnson, 19-1, Rory McIlroy still chasing that elusive career Grand Slam at 21-1. Then all on 23-1, you've got Koepka, Morikawa and Hovland ahead of Cantlay at 25-1, Jordan Spieth, 27-1, and Xander Schauffele rounding out that top 12 at 29-1. So, Sophie, I'll come to you first. Who stands out there for you of those main contenders?
Well, that's the whole thing. The main contenders, you've listed a whole group of them. I don't think there's a standout, and we don't see that too often. I remember when Dustin Johnson won the Masters, it was just obvious. You know, everybody was like, this guy is going to win. He's head and shoulders above everybody else. It's not the case at the moment. It's almost like there's been a fight to get to world number one, and once you get there, you don't know what to do with it. You know, John Rahm arguably justifiably the top ranked player because of his form. His putting has struggled, but like we keep saying, Paul's been saying, it's actually tee to green, and then you just hope that the putter gets warm. My pick, and it was my pick last year, it was Justin Thomas, and I felt the reason he didn't do too well last year because he had some on the course stroke off the course issues which really affected him more than we were even aware of, and obviously he's dealt with all that, and rightly so. And this year, I think he's the one. There's a couple of standout stats. He's had 5 top 10s this year on the PGA Tour. He's second in scoring at 69.6. Smashes it on the strokes gained approach. Short game has got way better thanks to hanging out with Mr. Eldrick Woods. So he lives by Tiger Woods. He's lucky enough to be in his inner circles. Been having practice rounds at Augusta with him, learning some shots from him. That's got to be a bonus. And also something that you won't see in the stats, his caddy is called Bones. Okay, it's Jim Mackay, who has won 3 times at the Masters with Phil Mickelson, is the most successful caddy there this week, knows it like the back of his hand. And like we're saying, all about experience. Well, he's got the best caddy on the bag. And I think Justin Thomas has matured a lot in the last year. He's only won 1 major, and I can't believe I'm saying that. He needs to win another, and he's my pick to win this week.
Yeah, I mean, you can definitely see he's got the game suited to Augusta, and you're certainly not the only one, Sophie, to put him up this week. I've seen a few other sort of good judges make him their main selection this week. So be interested to see how he gets on. Like, he's threatened at the last 2 Masters, but kind of faded away a little bit. So I wonder if he can maybe really start to contend this year, and I'm sure he'd be a very, very popular winner as well. As for you, Paul, I believe that Cameron Smith and Dustin Johnson are your sort of 2 main ones at the top of the market, and maybe a little squeak on Jordan Spieth as well.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really. I think it's a wide open affair between the sort of top 10, 12 in the market. I think the winner is coming from there. Cam Smith, Players Champion. He's got 3 top 10s and 5 appearances at the Masters, so he knows how to play well around here. He's got a bag full of confidence after winning the Players. Really good scrambler, which I think you've got to do. And of course, has shot all 4 rounds in the 60s around here, which is a record at the time. So, you know, that sort of course form with confidence, like Sophie was saying before, you need to have confidence, a recent win, going close in majors. He's gone close here. I think that he's got all the ingredients to go really close and challenge for the green jacket, to become just a second Australian to do so, and possibly the first mulleted golfer to win at Augusta. We don't know. Jordan Spieth, I think Jordan Spieth is a classic horse for course around here. Absolutely loves the place. 1 green jacket, should probably have 2 or 3. Could have won on his debut. Could have won when he dunked 2 in the water. And I think, you know, mentality-wise as well, what people don't realise, I think sometimes, is he put 2 in the water to effectively ruin his chances that year, and he birdied the next hole. You know, that sort of mentality is what I love in a golfer and what you need around here. He had, you know, one of the best iron play rounds of his career on Sunday in Texas. The 9th best round of his career in terms of approach play. So he's in good form with the irons. His putting was horrendous, but he's got that putting ability around Augusta, crucially. He's putted superbly around there in the past. Not so much last year when he was 51st out of 54 players to make the cut terms of strokes gained putting, but he did lead the way in tee to green. So, it doesn't take a lot on the putting greens to get that extra, margin to get him to go really close again. And Jordan Spieth is always worth backing, I think, around here. And Dustin Johnson, similar. Great course form, Masters champion. Missed the cut last year after going 6th, 4th, 10th and 2nd before winning. But, that was as defending champion with all that comes with that and all the things he's got to do. And just 4 or 5 months after winning it as well, because that was a November Masters. And crucially, if we get a deluge or Augusta and it softens the course up, could that give us the November conditions again, which he was so impressive in? So I think one of those three for me is going to be the next Masters champion.
Very interesting. And it's so incredible that some of these names that we haven't even touched on yet. I mean, one that definitely deserves a shout out is the new world number one, Scotty Scheffler, 18-1, third in the betting on SBK. Sophie, what do you make of his chance? I know he doesn't have as much Augusta experience as a lot of the others, but he is red hot at the minute, up to world number one after this incredible run. Like, he's got to have a chance.
Well, of course he has. He's one of the most formed male golfer on the planet, in my opinion. And the reason he doesn't have a lot of course form is because he's so young. And that's a thing we're going to be seeing in the men's game. The experience at Augusta, they're not going to have it. The likes of Victor Hovland, Colin Morikawa, Scotty Scheffler, they're not old enough to have the experience. But then you look at Morikawa and he's already won a couple of majors. Scotty Scheffler has won 3 times in five starts. The only thing you would always say to yourself is, when's it going to run out? Has he peaked too soon? You don't know. But in terms of his game, I mean, he hits it high, which is a big attribute for playing well around Augusta. He's got a little bit like a Dustin Johnson style game. And like Paul's just said, that works wonders around Augusta. There's so many to choose from. The only thing that stops you from going with Scotty Scheffler is that it's all just come very soon. And that's it. Why not? I don't know. But he's not in my winners. I'm more going towards what Paul's saying, just because it's all a bit too soon for Scotty Scheffler. As I say, he only just won on the PGA Tour. But if we're talking about riding a wave, he's still on it. I think this is the time for him to get off it. That's just my opinion, though.
Yeah, I mean, it's like Augusta is very different to all those other sort of stops on the PGA Tour he's been making, and maybe a bit of a wake-up call for him. But his game is obviously in very good nick at the minute. And Paul, just one other player I wanted to touch on at the top of the market here, who we haven't yet, is Rory McIlroy. Obviously chasing that elusive career Grand Slam, which he's been, I think this is his 8th attempt at Augusta since he won his sort of got 3 of the 4 majors. There's a lot of pressure on him every time this tournament comes around. He's obviously got the game when he's at his very best to win this, but is he in good enough form at the moment?
I'm not really sure the form comes into it. I think it's more of a mental thing with Rory. He's undoubtedly still one of the best players around when he's on his game, and his game should really suit Augusta as well. And I think, again, we're talking about almost like a horse race here, but I think the softer conditions could help Rory as well. I think he normally plays a bit better in the softer conditions if he can drive the ball well. That's normally Rory's mechanism. If he drives it well, he normally plays the rest of his game pretty well. I just think it's really a mental thing with him. He obviously had the meltdown in 2011 here. That's got to play on you. I don't care how strong you are mentally. If he's in charge, or if he's in touch on a Sunday at the Masters, when he comes around that to Amen corner again, those feelings are going to come up. They're going to. It's just how he handles them. And you like to think he would handle them. He's a bit older now. He's always had a pretty good mentality, I think. I was lucky enough to see him win the US Open, and I think it was the very next major tournament after that Masters meltdown. So, you talk about character, to throw away your first major at the Masters and then go and dominate as he did at the US Open, the very next major. I think his mentality's there. I think he's got the character. Has he got the game, though, to match these lads? And can he follow through with it? Because, when you think about it, the Grand Slam, he's missing 1 tournament. If it was any other tournament, any other major, the other 3, I think he would have hooved it up by now. I think it's the fact it's the Masters. Like we were talking about before, you've got the whole winter to think about it. Every time we're coming to Augusta, it's will Rory get the Grand Slam? There's so much build-up. If it was a PGA or even the Open, I think he would have finished his career Grand Slam. I just think the pressure gets so much And I think he might possibly overthink her a bit. So you never know. We're not talking about it much this year, so maybe this could be the year that Rory finally does it. But for me, I just think there's something getting in his way at the minute, and I don't really know how he can figure that out.
Yeah, I got to agree. Sorry, I just want to try to butt in with his opening round at Augusta. He's averaging 76. I mean, he's behind the 8 ball before he even starts, and then the amount of times he does come back strong. It'd be interesting to see if he can get a good first round. What happens? I'm a massive Rory McIlroy fan, huge. And I always used to say, when Rory plays his best, there's nobody in the world better than him. I don't know if that's the case anymore. I think the standard of golf has gone to another level in the last few years. And I think his best golf is good enough, but I think there's a few guys that can stand shoulder to shoulder with him now. And I didn't feel I could say that 5 years ago.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting to see him sort of 6th in the market, 21-1. You know, I'm sure there's not many Masters in recent memory where he's been bigger than 20-1 starting the tournament. So like you say, it could be all down to a hot start. And yeah, you feel like he's been playing catch up quite a few years recently, and maybe sort of finishing quite well, but never really being in that sort of group contending on the sort of over the weekend at the Masters. I mean, yeah, it's all very exciting. Like speaking about all those names and just looking at the top of the market there. I think, you know, like Paul says, it would be a big shock if one of these, given how much star power there is in the top 12 there, if one of those didn't go on to win. But if we go slightly further down the betting market and look at some other names, slightly bigger prices, you obviously got the defending champion, Hideki Matsuyama. He's about 54-1. Same price as Sam Burns, probably one of the top sort of form players on the PGA Tour at the moment. Matt Fitzpatrick also been very solid this year. He's 64-1. You got Bryson DeChambeau, definitely not playing his best golf at the minute, but he's 59-1. And then you've got a lot of former champions like Adam Scott, Patrick Reed, Bubba Watson, Sergio Garcia, all around the sort of 80 to 120-1 mark. I'm not sure if any of those stand out to either of you, or if there's any other sort of outsiders or dark horses that you're thinking about this week. Paul, who do you like at sort of bigger odds?
I mean, I like Louis Oosthuizen around here. Obviously, he was in a playoff with Bubba Watson and lost that. His form's not been great since here, but he's really close in all the other majors last year. And I think it's kind of coming towards last chance saloon for Louis. You know, he's a fabulous player, lovely. He's got like a silky golden swing. I'd kill for his swing. It's amazing. I'm just not sure he's got, you know, when he gets in contention, has he got the eye of the tiger to go on and win it? Because he's definitely got the game. He's an Open champion, but I think he should have won about 2 or 3 majors. I think he's about 40-1 here, 10-1 for a place. I just think he's a really good player, solid all-round game. And I think here, I always like to back him around here because I think this course sets up nicely for him as well. Whether he wants to turn up this week or not is up to him. I'm not sure whether, you know, like he's actually got the desire there. So that's one outsider for me. Another player at big odds I like is Corey Connors, the consistent Canadian, if I can try and say that. Not easy for me to say. He's got top 10s in his last 2 Masters, and he ranked 11th and 3rd in greens and regulation in those 2 Masters. 3rd at the WGC match play recently. Very solid ball striker, very consistent, and has challenged around here as well. So sort of like Sophie had profiled perfectly before, the kind of guy you want to win around here, or, you know, that normally wins. He's got a few of those attributes that I like at a really decent price. So I think he could really give us a run for our money at around 70-1.
Very interesting. Yeah, I think he's certainly one who definitely, given his recent form, like you say, he looks a very solid sort of outsider's bet, doesn't he? And Sophie, I think one you picked out was I know that sort of the classic form line that people always look at is Riviera going into the Masters, and obviously Joaquin Niemann has very good form there, and he's one that you picked out.
He was, and then Paul told me it was raining, which just stirred me off a bit, just because of the weather conditions. But I've gone with Joaquin. There is the Riviera correlation here. So the Genesis Open is around Riviera. Past champions, we're talking Adam Scott, Bubba Watson. There'd be a couple more, won't there? Phil Mickelson. Funnily enough, not Tiger Woods, which I have no idea how he's never won around Riviera, but it's very much like a horses for courses. So I've actually looked about the top 10 who's done well there this year and in the past. Obviously, Joaquin Niemann did win. He's about 40-1. He's the drawer of the golf ball. He is actually sneaky long. People think he hits it too short. He does get it out there over 300 yards now. He's been working on his strength and conditioning. He sits in that bracket of strokes gained that I keep talking about, top 40 in the world. He sits 10th in the stroke average this year. Ball flight wise, he does flight it low, which isn't seen as an attribute for playing well around Augusta, but is incredible short game. I mean, he grew up on a short pitch and putt course. He has a chipping green in his back garden down in Chile. He's like Cam Smith when it comes to the short game. And more importantly, mentored by Sergio Garcia. So he'll be having practice rounds with Sergio this week. He'll be really getting into him about the course, because he was one of the unlucky guys that missed out of the Masters due to COVID. Him and Sergio, I think, missed out 1 year. So he hasn't played a lot around Augusta. His form isn't great, which is probably why he's a little bit outside. Maybe keep an eye on the weather. That's all I would say with Joaquim. Another guy that kind of fits the mold similar is a Max Homer. He's another guy that does well around Riviera. Obviously, a past champion, sits inside the top 30 strokes gained, tee to green. Smashes it on par fives. That's a big thing to look at. And then somebody that I just think is going to win another major, and why not this one, is form at the Masters is not great, but it's Shane Lowry. His form this year has been very good on the PGA Tour. He's 17th in putting, but he's 9th in strokes gained total. So he's got that all-round game. I think he should have won the Honda. If it hadn't have rained, I think he would have done. But actually, we know he's all right in the rain, don't we, Paul? He did okay at the Open winning in the rain. So if it does get a bit soft, a guy that is exceptional at irons, into green, so he's one for me. But I mean, what do we keep, me and Paul, we have not picked many Europeans, have we, this year? And that's hard for me to say. So he's probably my my GB&I pick anyway.
Very interesting. I certainly know that Paul does have one UK player that he maybe fancies at big odds, and that's Bob McIntyre, Paul.
Yeah, I mean, the old left-handers, aren't they? They love it. They love Augusta, the left-handers, you know, Bubba Watson, Mickelson, Mike Weir, some people might remember. And, you know, Bob McIntyre, he's only played once. So, you know, that kind of rips up our, you know, form book if you've got to play a lot of times. But, you know, tied 12th, I think he was on his debut. I mean, if anyone enjoyed his debut, it was Bob McIntyre. If you've seen him on social media, he enjoyed himself, you know, and he was there to fight, and he got his place back in by that tied 12th for this year, and he's not coming to make the numbers. Trust me, he is not. I've seen him on social media again. He's not coming to make the numbers. He get 28-1 just for a place. And I think after finishing tied 12th last year, left-hander, hopefully it does rain. You know, Scotsman's not going to mind a little bit of, you know, precipitation coming down. He's got a great game. He hits a lovely iron. He's good around the greens as well. And I think at that price, you know, I think he's going to give us a real run for a place. And also, he's a great guy as well. So you really want him to do well. So it was nice if you can back a nice guy as well. So yeah, Bob McIntyre for a place for me, for a little side bet.
Excellent. So we've got lots of outside selections there from the team here. Hopefully we can get some winners here, some nice place bets, or even maybe a huge long odds winner. That'll certainly be a big achievement for one of those guys to finish ahead of those big contenders we spoke about at the top. Just one of the other sub-markets that I always know is very popular for the big majors, especially at Augusta, is first round leader. I think there was a period where Charlie Hoffman was just leading after every major, wasn't there? So I don't know. I don't know if he's in this year's tournament, but who do you guys fancy maybe to get off to a hot start? Because you often get some quite good odds in the first round leader market when compared to the main outright winner. Paul, I'll ask you first here.
Yeah, I mean, there was a time when it was Fred Couples, wasn't it? Who always used to be first or second round leader around here, around his own backyard. Without, you know, not one to stray too far from original selections. What about Jordan Spieth at 30-1? Just building on that fabulous ball striking round he had at the Valero on Sunday. You know, that's a great form to come in. And, you know, Jordan Spieth led here so many times. He could really get off to a hot start. And another guy I quite like who makes a fast start is Victor Hovland. I think Victor Hovland, not a lot of rounds around here or great form, but he has been low amateur around here in his amateur days. So, you know, can play the course, and he's around 30-1, same as Spieth. And, you know, Victor Hovland, once he gets, you know, on a roll in a round, he's not scared to go low. So Victor Hovland could be easily be one who gets off to a really hot start and leads us after round one, if he's solved his chipping woes around the greens.
Yeah, I think that's the interesting thing with Hovland, isn't it? That there seems to be almost more spotlight on his chipping, and if he can hold that together over 4 days, then the game, the form he's in, like he certainly would have a good chance, you think. And I know one of the other young guns, two-time major champion now, Colin Morikawa. Sophie, I know you picked him out as a possible hot starter this week.
Yeah, Mr. Confident, Colin Morikawa. He's he's won twice. He's won 2 majors. It's just obscene. This lad is destined for greatness. And I just think he's got that mentality of everyone's like, oh, you can't win with a fade around Augusta. And he's like, well, my game can win anywhere, so why not here? Another one is Patrick Cantlay. He's a guy that I've backed quite a lot at the Masters in the last few years, and I've not this year, so he's probably going to win. But in terms of his first round average, he's the best on the PGA Tour. And he was the best last year on the PGA Tour. And he's second in birdies. He makes over 5 birdies a round. So that is going to certainly help to go for lowest round. But yeah, they're my 2. I always used to bet on Bernard Langer as well for first round leader. He always used to give me a good run for my money.
I guess, yeah, he's. I mean, to be fair, you can always back him most years. He always seems to play well, doesn't he? He's always winning on the Champions Tour all the time. But excellent, guys. Well, that's, I think, all the sort of main key markets we wanted to cover. I guess I'd just go over to both of you for any sort of closing remarks, any other sort of points you wanted to make for this year's tournament, because it really does look like potentially one of the best editions in recent years, given the strength and depth at the top of the market. Tiger's obviously there. I mean, Sophie, anything else you'd like to mention?
I'd keep an eye on tee times. I'm not sure playing with Tiger Woods is going to be a good draw. So see who he gets paired with, because there's going to be a lot of hoo-ha around that. And the guys that are maybe the opposite side of the draw to Tiger, look at them doing well, because they all seem to be enjoying Tiger taking away some limelight. But we always used to find this in majors. If you got paired with Tiger, it wasn't necessarily a good thing for your game, because all the fans and patrons in this case will follow that group, and no one's prepared for this. I can honestly say that now. No one will be prepared for the amount of attention that is on that group. Whoever Tiger's playing with, those other 2 people, they'll have never felt anything like it, even if it is a Jordan Spieth or a Dustin Johnson.
That's very interesting. Yeah, no, I certainly agree with that. And yeah, it'd be amazing if Tiger does get off to a hot start, and then it's just going to be more and more excitement around him, wouldn't there be? Paul, how about you?
Yeah, I think similar. Tee times. I sound like a weatherman here, don't I? But yeah, tee times and the weather. If you start getting delays, heavy rain, that can really mess with your round, and it can really make a big difference around Augusta. Totally agree with what Sophie says. You've got to be some type of player to stand up to the pressure that playing with Tiger, or even the group ahead and the group behind, because the patrons, they're not allowed to run around Augusta, so they'll be lingering around a few holes, so you'll still get a bumper crowd. And yeah, like Sophie said, you're not prepared for that as a player, because Tiger is just a different animal altogether to the rest of them. The only thing I'd say is if you're having a little tickle of in-play betting, you've got to be within the top 10. Maybe I think 11th is the lowest a winner has been after round 1 over the last 10 or 11 Masters. So you don't really come from off the pace in the Masters. You've got to start well. So if you're betting in play, you want to be a top 10 really. And the other thing, I think it's going to be really close. I can see a playoff here, but I can see it being won. As you say, it doesn't. I'll finish with it. It doesn't start till the back 9 on Sunday, does it, or Augusta? And I think it could really ring true this year, because there's nothing really between the top 10 or 12 in the world, and we could have a couple of wild cards as well. So I think it's going to be a really close, exciting finish to this one.
Yeah, no, I think that's what we're all hoping for. And I mean, I absolutely love the Masters. I'm very excited for this week's tournament after speaking to you both. So thanks very much for taking the time to run us through your picks. Hopefully we can find a nice winner. I know the SBK betting podcast has been on pretty good form recently with the horse racing. Jess and the usual team have already recorded previews for day 1 and 2 of Aintree this weekend. They'll also be back with a Grand National special to really look ahead to the biggest horse race of the year. I mean, it's an incredible week of sport, isn't it? You've also got Man City and Liverpool in the Premier League on Sunday, so loads and loads to look forward to this weekend. Thanks very much for watching or listening to this SBK betting podcast. And don't forget, you should also, if you want to sign up to SBK, there's a special welcome offer at the moment where you can get £30 in free bets That's for obviously users that are 18 or over. Thanks very much. Enjoy the Masters.